On today's episode of Gathering the Kings, how does one listening today, let's say that they do have their fingerprint on everything in the business, what's the most important thing that they should start working on to head towards that exit momentum where they can sell their business or work it from a beach one day, whatever their freedom looks like, but they don't have it right now? What's the first thing that they should start working on? What's up, everybody? I'm Chaz Wolf, Gathering the Kings podcast. Today, I've got a king on the stage, Jason Ambeau. How we doing, brother?
Fantastic for a Monday too.
For a Monday, yeah, we were just talking about a little bit of your Sunday routine. I've got a Sunday routine as well to set me up for the whole week. I definitely appreciate that. Maybe we'll get into that here in a little bit. Tell us what kind of business that you're in.
So I actually have two. I own one business where we help process work opportunity tax credits and do property tax negotiations for small and medium-sized businesses. And that business is called A to Z Consultants. But my main force and push is inside a company called Exit Momentum, where we are business consultants. And essentially, what we do is that we help our clients redefine what freedom means for them to attain results as yet unattainable.
Love it. Love it. And in that little mission statement there that you read, it's almost assumed that most people think about freedom, but don't really know what it means. And then the further step is that even if they had thought about it and know what it means to them, what does it mean to their business? And then
What do you do with
putting
it?
those two things together.
What do you do with it? Yeah. I'm always fond of saying to people, listen, eventually working with us, we're going to give you some of your personal capacity back.
Love
You're
that.
going to do with that whatever you want. Maybe you'll play golf more. Maybe you'll go fishing. Maybe you'll spend more time with your family. Maybe you'll pour it back into your business. Maybe you'll start a new business. That's not my concern. My concern is we're going to give you back some of your capacity. That's not our main goal, by the way. One of our core values is we maniacally obsess over results. So we want to create results. But in that effort, we
Yeah.
always end up shedding some of the burden that owners and
Right.
leadership teams have and offer some greater freedom to them. And then, like I said, they can choose. Some folks have made all kinds of crazy choices, and some decide to run their, I'm just going to run my company from the beach from now on.
Right.
Great. Up to you if that's your dream, but we don't want to
Right.
tell you what your dream is, right? You get to choose. We're just going to give you some
Yeah.
of that back.
Yeah, love that. Yeah, and I think that's really kind of underneath that entrepreneur who's trying to redefine freedom and figure out what to do to be able to get some of that capacity back. I think actually we serve, Gathering the Kings as a mastermind group and you as a business consultant, we actually serve the same person because this person that we're talking about is overwhelmed or is overloaded. Even the person that has a big team, oftentimes they're by themselves. Like a lot of people making decisions on their own. Heavy is the crown, as we
Yes.
say. And so I think that it's pretty cool that inside of the practical business pieces that you're able to alleviate or pull certain levers with them to be able to get them to a different place of freedom. A big part of that, what we believe, is community and how those community places a large play on those levers as well. So I think that we're like brothers in arms here, helping the entrepreneur who's lonely, trying to figure out what freedom looks like. And it's funny too when you say lonely. To me, as an entrepreneur, that always felt soft, right? So I want you to talk about from your perspective, helping clients through their business, and and you're helping them redefine freedom. You're helping them redefine these things of like what am I going to do to get my capacity back? A lot of those things are because they're either doing too much on their own or they're by themselves doing the thing. And so talk about that because it's not soft. I've learned it's actually strategic and quite the king move to be able to put things together, right?
Right.
To have the freedom that you're talking about. Talk about that for a
Yeah.
second.
Yeah. It's interesting. So, I grew up in this world. I'm older. I was born in 1964, and I grew up in this world, in my early working days in the 80s and 90s. And it was really clear what the message was from all of corporate America. Work your ass off and grind as hard as you can, no matter what. And the harder you worked in some organizations, the more you were rewarded, even more so than your results.
Right.
Right. And I was fond eventually of learning that, listen, if I can produce results in 40 hours and the rest of everybody else in the world has to work 70 hours a week, which was kind of the modus operandi at the time to be a hero, I thought that would be better. And I ran into bosses that said, no, you still have to work more hours
Right.
to get the honor back,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I think that shifted, right?
Oh yeah.
Except that, like I just saw the other day on social media, a guy said, being an entrepreneur is getting to decide which 80 hours a week you work.
Right.
And we argued because I said, no, it's awful, my man, it's awful. And so what happens is, so from my perspective, people start a business, and I like to say they started with an abundance of arrogance and ignorance.
Yeah. Amen to both.
Right? So we start going, I don't really know, but I'm going to pull this off some kind of way, right?
That's right.
It's like,
That's right.
I got it. I know I can do this, and I don't even know how 100%. So what do? You work your ass off for a long time, right? And you make sure that you just go and nonstop. Hopefully at some point, most of us wake up and say, man, my kids are growing up without me. My life is passing without me. I'm sacrificing my health for wealth. Maybe I just hit a spot where we're stunted, right? We talk about this idea of hitting a ceiling all the time. So your growth gets stunted. And why is it stunted? It's because your fingerprints in your current iteration have to be on every transaction that occurs, both internally and external transactions.
Yeah.
Nothing happens without the blessing or you touching something, right?
Right.
And that's a big stunt in people's growth because there's only so much of you. Sometimes this revelation happens because someone wakes up and realizes, I can't work any more hours. I can't do anymore. Like, this is it. I'm here. And every time a little bit of a hiccup happens, they drown a little bit.
Yeah.
And finally they wake up and say, I've got to find a better way to operate, right? To build an organization that has the culture and the playbook behind it, that they can release some things and have some trust, or trust and verify, but at least some trust in letting somebody else do something.
Yeah.
But it's more difficult than people think a lot, right? And as soon as it doesn't work out, what do? Give it all back to me.
Right.
I'm taking it all back. To hell with that. And sometimes even go, I'll just run a smaller company.
That's right.
Because I feel in charge then, because I don't know how to get bigger and let that go. And that can happen not just as the owner, by the way, but there'll be people on your leadership team.
That's right.
That can have that same experience that they don't know, right? So the owner figures it out, and he builds a leadership team. The leadership team doesn't figure it out. And so they're stunting their growth in their particular areas.
Yeah. Yeah. The mindset that you're referring to is so big. And I think that it's like a catch-22, because a lot of times in order to become successful to a certain degree, we have to grind, work the 80 hour or whatever the formula is. Sometimes it's more hours, sometimes it's just more effort. Those are different, and be able to, push up the hill for a certain period of time. But then we stay there, to your point, or we even come back down the hill if we can't figure out, okay, so what got us here doesn't necessarily get us to the next level. I was just watching a video actually yesterday from Alex Hormozy, and he was talking about when they look at entrepreneurs to look at, or to buy, or to acquire, the business owner that, has to be in every single piece there, that hasn't really figured out that it's the next level for them, is always going to think that I just need to work more. I just need to work harder, because that's what they've been doing this whole time. 80 hours, 100 hours, up early, up late, whatever. And I'm not saying that those things are bad. I wake up early, I go to bed late. I'm a hard worker. The reality of, though, is that what Alex was saying in this video is that this formula, you're just running the same formula, and it's not working. You got to look inside of it and go, okay, well, what are the levers that you're pulling, or what are the decisions that you're making, the actions that you're taking, the inputs need to be different to get a different output, right?
Yeah, it's interesting, Chaz, because that dynamic is not a dynamic of failure. It's a dynamic of success. And what I mean by that is the people that have that feeling, what got them to where they are today? Working their ass off. So it's hard to let that go, especially if they've had a time or two, again, where they gave a little bit of slack and it slapped them back in the face instead of seeing it as an opportunity to teach and develop. They grabbed it all back, right? So they've learned these hard lessons. And again, lessons built on, hey, don't tell me. I know how to build a company. Look what I've built. We're doing 2 million, 6 million, 8 million, whatever it is, right? Like, look, we're killing it. You can't tell me that I have to do less. And the difference is, and I love this analogy, if you were to go from primary school to high school and navigate the hallways of high school with the same mindset and skill sets you did in primary school, you're going to get your ass kicked.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not going to work. It's a different level. You're playing at a new level, right? We get this in sports, right? From high school to college to pro. We
Right.
understand that skill sets and mindsets have to shift and change. It's no longer sufficient. And in business, going to get to different levels. And this is a natural phenomenon. You didn't screw it up. You didn't make a mistake.
Right.
It's just that what got you here is insufficient to get you to the next level. And that is a repetitive phenomenon. So it's going to keep happening over and over and over again, right?
Yep. That's
The
right.
key is, do we have a culture and some desire for systems and a playbook, right? Set so that we realize we're hitting a ceiling and we can quickly burst through instead of wallowing in that space for too long. From my
Right.
perspective, you're either growing or dying. There's no stagnation in this life, right? In anything. So
Yeah.
if you look around, your business isn't growing, I got bad news for you.
Yeah. Well, the great part is though, even in that moment, you can still choose to head upwards.
Yeah.
And the cool part about the upward trajectory is that it's not always up. Sometimes it's, you know,
It's always like that.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
okay, right?
Which should give the listener hope, because between the businesses that I've got and you've got, and the businesses that you've helped and that I've helped, this is natural progression. So it's
That's right.
okay. At the same time, too, it gives you hope, but it also should challenge you to recognize, like, okay, so there's another level I can go to, that I shouldn't stop. I shouldn't be content. I shouldn't rest. That doesn't mean,
That's
though,
right.
that I'm not working more, or you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
and,
Or
and to Hormozy's point, if someone comes to your business to buy it tomorrow, and again, you're in a situation where your fingerprints have to be on every transaction that occurs. By the way, your business has no value without you.
yeah, you can't sell it. You're selling
Can't
yourself
sell
or a
it for
job.
anything. I mean, they're
Right.
going to be kind of buying your customers essentially, and that's about the
Yeah.
only value you're going to have, right? It
Yeah.
has to be able to operate without you if you intend to ever sell it for anything. So.
Yeah. Yeah. How does one listening today, let's say that they do have their fingerprint on everything in the business. What's the most important thing that they should start working on to head towards that exit momentum where they can sell their business or work it from a beach one day, whatever their freedom looks like, but they don't have it right now? What's the first thing that they should start working on?
So it's interesting. It's one of those things like saying, "What's the most important thing in your health?" Well, I don't know. You could have a nutrition that's so bad you can't out train it. You
Right.
could train hard and eat well and never sleep. In other words, which one's most? They're all.
Right.
What I would tell you, if on your own you want to make a decision, the first thing I would start with is shed the thing you hate,
Mm,
the
good.
thing that's so hard to do for you. If you put me in accounting role in your company, two things are going to happen. I'm going to implode, and so is your accounting office.
No way around it.
It's not my gig. Now, do I understand, right, how to read a P&L? Do I understand how our accounting system should be set up? Can I dig into the numbers and do analysis with you? I can. I'm perfectly capable. But it's just not my wheelhouse, right? It's not the right seat for me, as Jim Collins talks about right seats and right people, right? It's just
That's
not
right.
the right seat for me. And it was a soul crusher to do that kind of work for me.
Right.
So as an owner, I would choose the thing, again, that you really, if you love sales, you love selling, okay, hang on to that as long as you can, right? And move something else off of your plate.
Yeah.
Whatever that thing that you love to do that you feel you just, we're talking about the hedgehog concept. You've ever heard that,
Yeah.
right? So,
Oh, yeah.
great return on your investment, which is not just monetary, right? It's personal capital, emotional capital, those things, right? And that you do really, really well. And I would add the third thing in that to be something you love to do, something you really just enjoy doing. It's like built in you, it's natural.
Yeah.
Shed the stuff you hate. Go
Yeah.
hire an accountant if that's not your thing. And you think,
Yeah.
oh, I know, but I can do it. I know, but the hours that you spend could be done in 90 minutes by a professional. It takes you 5 hours a week that you're doing at 11 o'clock at night when you could be sleeping.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
Yep.
So that would be my approach really for each person is whatever there are some great entrepreneurs who are not A-type personalities. They're really B-type personalities and they lead differently, and that's okay. So maybe they think, I hate sales. I'm good at a lot of other great. Go hire you a fantastic sales leader to run that part of the organization. And then you go focus on what you're great at, processes and those kind of, whatever it is. I would shed the thing you hate to do, you dread doing, because I promise you it's draining you and it's taking you a hell of a lot more time than it would be a professional that's great in this space. So.
Yeah, exactly. The mindset that you actually started off with, which is okay, in comparison to health, there's sleep, diet, workout, consistency, like all these factors that kind of go into this formula. And so true is business, where it's like, okay, there's lots of angles of business. There's mindset even that goes into each angle. And so the easiest place is to get rid of the thing that maybe you don't do the best. The point that you're making underneath all that actually is the most important, which is, look, there's a lot of things that go into this formula. And if you're good or not good at one thing, that's okay. That you're going to need probably more than just you, which takes us back to the original point of, we actually don't need your fingerprint on anything. Right?
The thing is, Chaz, if we broke your business down into three parts, right? Every business breaks down this way: get work, do work, get paid.
There
Right?
you go.
You got to get some work. There's your sales and marketing. You got to get work. You got to
Yep.
do some stuff. There's your operations, your fulfillment, whatever it is. And then
Yep.
get paid. There's your finance and accounting. Those three components are in every business, no matter what. Figure out which one of those you hate and shed that one. I
Yeah.
mean, just move on from that one would be my advice, because no matter what, and let's just say of just those three, or 30,000 feet view, those three areas, whichever one is the weakest, that's as high as you can rise.
Yeah.
It's going to be a limiting factor, right? It's sort of like having
good.
a team. And I tell people your team is like connected, let's say, by rubber bands, right? To a board, if you will. And the lowest rubber band is limiting how far the others can stretch.
Right.
But you cannot rise anymore because this short rubber band here is holding you down, right? You've got to replace that with more capacity. So it's the
Right.
same idea. If your financing and accounting sucks, but we're killing sales. Yeah, no, but where's the money?
Right.
You have no idea, right? Your collections are shit. Your accounting's terrible. You look up one week, you're killed it, but you can't make payroll. I'm like, stop
Right.
already. You are limiting the growth of your company by that one particular area.
Yeah. 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 And I guess the kind of hidden skill set in all of this that we haven't really talked about is the ability to recognize or to acknowledge what my weakness or my strength or what the weakness of the organization is. How would one go about that? Like, do they just sit and kumbaya in the corner for a second, figure out what their
Right.
weakness is? What
Yeah.
what do you say?
It's so tough for the entrepreneurial brain, right? Because what's the entrepreneurial brain tell you?
Yeah. I'm gonna be all
I
places
got
all
this.
the time.
I
Yeah.
got this. I can do it. Trust me. And it's true in a lot of situations. You do got it. You can
Yeah.
pull it off. But
Right.
at what cost?
Yeah. Exactly.
That's the key question, right? So one of the things that we do so well at Exit Momentum that we're sort of proud of is we hold up a mirror to people. I mean, we're
Yeah.
just holding up a mirror to people. We're asking a lot of questions. And again, one of our core values is we say what needs to be said regardless of risk.
There you go.
So we are willing to put our professional relationship at risk to tell you the truth,
Yeah.
whether you like it or not. Right?
Yeah.
And we're not going to sugarcoat it. We're going to hit you right in the teeth with it, because that's the way you need to hear it, to shake you and rattle you and move you.
That's right.
We move, make changes and shifts in our lives, usually, most of the time, based on a pretty emotional set of circumstances that has forced us to take a look at things, right? You have
That's
a
right.
heart attack, you go, oh shit, I'm in bad health,
Yeah.
right? And before that, I've had a widowmaker heart attack in October of 17, and I trained all the time. I never slept and didn't take care of my nutrition well, right? I'll grind it and win and grind it. It was unbelievable. I would sleep 3 or 4 hours a night. I told
Wow.
people that old line, I'll catch up on all the sleep I need the first year I'm dead.
Yep.
And then I almost died.
Wow.
And a 100% blockage in my right coronary and a 95% in my left. I was in the gym training, and I should be dead. The doctor said I had a less than 6% chance of surviving. And not only did I survive, I have 0 heart damage, which was a bit of a miracle they can't really understand. But
Yeah.
I tell people in regards to my health, Chaz, that, well, I have an advantage over you. You see, I almost killed myself.
Yeah. I've pushed the
You
bounds.
haven't done that. So when I think I
Right.
don't feel like training, or I want to drink more, or I want to eat, or I want to, I go, no, you know what happens? You're going to die.
Yeah.
Right. So having had that experience is a great motivator for me. I don't know if we mentioned this earlier, but about, sacrificing your health for wealth. I
Yeah.
won't do it. I will not do it. As Johnny Carson interviewing Ali years and years ago in the first $1 million fight, right? Carson was like, holy hell, shoot, Ali, I think I'll fight you for $1 million. And Ali said, sure, Johnny, but who gonna spend the money?
Right.
Right? You're gonna be dead. So
Yeah.
spend the $1 million.
Yeah. What does it matter?
Well, it's the same thing, right? Great, you have this beautiful boat you bought yourself for retirement, but your body's so broken down you can't get in the damn thing.
Yeah.
So what good does it do you, right? So just that balance of ideas, both in business and personal, all those things,
Yeah.
means an awful lot to me. And I think people miss that. And I think if they apply that same sort of perspective and concept, right? That listen, to get there, you're going to have to get really brutally honest with you. One of the tools that we use is called the brutal facts, where we get people to write down facts. We help them to get clear about the difference between the story they're telling themselves and what are the actual
right.
facts.
That's right.
They always write these things down they think are factual. And by the end of the session, they realize, oh, this is all just stories I'm telling myself. What are the actual facts? And you look at the actual facts and do not explain the facts away. Don't try to manipulate them. Don't explain them away. Just accept the fact. If your closing ratio is 20%, it doesn't matter if we get enough leads. Bullshit. You're paying more for leads, so you have to improve the closing. But just accept the facts as they are, because then you can actually do something about them. You are the creator of the facts as they are. You can create a different result.
Yeah, I love the intensity that we're talking at, and I think that all this is really practical. What do you feel like? Okay, so in all the businesses that have come to exit, what's the heart attack moment for them? Like they're at your desk, they've just had this proverbial heart attack, and they're like, "Oh, I'm not healthy," right? And so now they're at your desk to get fitness and diet and all the things for their business. What is that moment for entrepreneurs that potentially the listeners have experienced, or maybe they haven't yet, but we can kind of tip them off a little bit?
Or it's back here talking to them all the time, right?
That's right.
It's a little bit different, but I would say in common. So first off, just to let you know, so our ideal clients, we don't really do rescue missions. We don't do many startups, right? We're working with people that are successful already.
Yeah.
They have had success and they're doing well. The problem is they have hit this ceiling, as we discussed. And generally that comes down to a capacity issue. Whatever they have studied and done and worked on, whatever, they've just reached a spot. They're like, we can't get beyond here for whatever reason. Maybe that's been a year, in some cases, 3 or 4 years of stagnant growth. Or we went from 4 million to 8 million and our net went from 300,000 to 325,000.
Right.
Awesome. Right.
Yeah.
Working twice
A lot
as
of
hard
headache. No more.
for an extra 20 grand or whatever, maybe 100 grand, whatever. It's like nothing, right? It's like no chance. So that's the issues that we run into. Usually they're not panic. It's not holy hell, everything's falling apart. No, the people we work with are going, we're growing and we've been successful, but we had this unruly, chaotic growth. And even with our growth, I just keep I'm losing more and more control. I have no idea what's going on. I don't have clarity about the next steps. I'm not sure.
Right.
And we love to tell people, listen, you're smart and capable, or you wouldn't be here in the first place.
That's
you
right.
can figure this out on your own. You can, but at what cost and how long?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. If I gave you a bicycle, Chaz, and you'd never seen one in your life before, are you sure you know how to ride it?
Yeah. No, not at all.
You're sure you wouldn't turn it upside down and crank the hand going, this is fun. No, you're supposed to sit on the seat and I didn't know what I was supposed to do with that thing. You might have tried so many different things. Eventually you went, it's an awfully convenient transportation device. That's cool. Right. And maximize its usage as designed. Right. In business, because you're in this fog of war every day, you're just going and blowing, you're trying to take care of customers, employees, and your logistics and all the things, and you're just so busy, right, in that fog of war. There's not the general spot sitting back here on the hill going, hey, this is our next move. This is our next move. This is our next move, because you're so involved, right? So again, I think that it's not often a specific moment. It's a critical mass of frustration, a critical mass of stagnation, a critical mass of just lack of clarity we hear constantly from our prospects. We're just not clear on where to go. And of course, we expose where some of that's coming from. That is, they know, but nobody beneath them has any idea where the hell we're going and what we're doing next. What's the strategy? What's the next set of tactics, et cetera?
Yeah. Yeah. The thing that I heard inside of all those examples, it's not an exact, moment like you described, but it's maybe a spirit. We call it grateful, but not done in Gathering the Kings. It's like whether I've been successful or whether I'm at a plateau, whether I've had stagnant growth for 3 years, I'm grateful, but I'm not done. And so I keep bumping up against this thing, whatever this thing
I love
is.
that.
Even if it's unruly growth, I'm still bumping up against it all up, in the tornado of it. And I recognize that in order to go to the next level, I have to have a different perspective. And so sometimes that's when they find themselves at your desk, which is like, okay, wow, I'm grateful for what we've had, the unruly growth, the slow growth, whatever it's been. We've been successful, but there's a
Yeah.
common theme here is that successful people want to continue to be successful and further.
One of our messages we give all the time is, listen, you didn't screw up. You didn't. This is a natural phenomenon in business. It's just
Yeah.
another level that you're not prepared at this moment to conquer. And that's where we can come in and help, right?
That's
But
right.
but people equate this idea of asking with help with weakness
Yep.
and all those things, right? Or I messed up, like a scolding. And we're like,
Right.
no, listen, I love your idea, which is grateful but not done. It's beautiful because you should feel your successes and you should celebrate them and party on about it. It's great. Doesn't mean we're finished. There's still something else to be done. So I love
Yeah.
that.
Absolutely. Okay, well, so I want to go inside of either decisions that you've made or that you've helped other entrepreneurs make. What's just something that you would hit the repeat button on? This one type of decision or this specific decision that you've made over and over again, you would do it and you would suggest it to our listeners right now. What's something practical?
The most important thing that we do for people, and it's often overlooked, I think, is really right seats, right people.
Yeah, it's good.
What happens a lot, you get this superstar in your organization, right? And you love them. You just love them. And they work their ass off, or they'll do anything for you. And to my analogy earlier about accounting, it's like your number one salesperson, right? Awesome. I want you to go over to accounting and fix accounting now.
Yeah. Bad
Costs a
idea.
lot. Or even more common, promoting your best salesperson to sales manager.
Oh
This
yeah,
happens all the time.
all the time.
They got to be better. I mean, they'd be the best sales manager because the best salesperson. You did two things. A, you got rid of your best salesperson. Well done. And you put a person whose skill set, if they're your best salesperson, I promise you they're never going to be your best sales manager, right? I was a great sales manager. I was a good salesperson.
Right.
The analogy I use there is kind of like Michael Jordan, right? You can't teach the thing that Jordan or LeBron or the greats have, right? But then you look at some of the coaches in the NBA, and
Yeah.
they played in the NBA, but they were never the greats. They were the goods. From
Right.
my perspective, they had to work really, really hard and learn as much as possible. And the minutia of the game and the finite little things that made them a little bit better to make them, Doc Rivers is a good example. Long career in the NBA was good. Not great. He's going to be a Hall of Fame coach
Right.
because he's better suited for that than he was superstardom, right? And superstars rarely make good coaches. Michael's like, what do you mean? You take the ball in bounds, you cross half court, you take two big steps, you jam in the hole. Dude, what's so complicated?
Right.
Everybody's capable of that, Michael. So, what I mean? So your best salesperson's message to the sales team would be like, well, just go get it, dude. Sell more. Go crush it.
Right. Yep.
That doesn't help me if I'm struggling in sales, right? I'm trying hard already. I need more feedback. And so I think the biggest mistake that we see is, careers get ruined, companies get ruined, having the wrong people in the wrong seats. And we've saved one particular company right here in Baton Rouge that I work with. I mean, we saved one girl's career who was a really tremendous asset. They hired her and put her in the wrong seat. Just that simple. And I loved her, and they hated her, and I couldn't figure it out. And then I figured it out. Oh, you know what it is? You guys are asking to do things that she's just not great at. She's trying real hard. So I just said, listen, can we give her another chance? Let's put her over here. Just give her 90 days in this other role. It's hilarious. They're like, oh my gosh, she's changed so much. I'm like, no, she hasn't. She's gotten right. She's the same woman she was before, the same skill sets. You guys were asking her to be a office manager when that's just not her wheelhouse, right?
Yeah.
We found a spot for her that she's fantastic in, saved her career and saved them the high cost of another turnover, right?
Hey, kings and queens, Chaz Wolf. I want to talk to you about something that's super important to me. We put a lot of time and effort, we meaning myself and my team, into this podcast, into the content that goes out every single day. And if you have been getting any sort of value or insight from this, we want it to be able to reach other business owners too. So we would love if you would like, comment, share, leave a review, post, share again. all of the things on social media, on all the different platforms, or even on the podcast mediums of Apple and Spotify. We would love to be able to get our content into more hands, more entrepreneurs, so they can grow their business as quick as possible. Together, we are building a community of like-minded entrepreneurs who are committed to growing their businesses to new heights. So let's do this. Let's help each other. Let's help each other grow. Absolutely. Yeah. So for the person listening right now, there's two kind of pieces to this, and maybe I'll give you another chance to respond here, but there's filling the spots. And so you can identify skill sets, even personality traits, preferences, just the way that they go about their business, even before they are hired, so that ideally you put them in the right seat to begin with. However, sometimes we make mistakes. And there's a gal that we hired that we're really excited about, and we put her in this role over here, and it was just the wrong move. Before you ever get rid of anybody, it should always be, what are the skill sets? What is she best at? And if you don't know, then you're not leading and coaching and getting to know your people well enough. You're not building an actual organization. You should know what she's best at and be able to like pick it up and go, oh, I made the wrong move here. I should move her into this seat. So there's two pieces. Hiring first initially, but if we make the mistake, we can still move people around. Would you agree with this?
Absolutely. So let me ask you a question. Well, flip the thing. It's the Jason
Yeah.
podcast. Hey, how y'all doing? Chaz Wolf on with me today on the FM channel 198. So I guess it could have been an FM guy, or AM guy back in the
There you go. Hey, whatever.
So here's the question. Of the people that you interact with and work with in your organization, what percentage would you say is 100% clear about the attributes, skill sets, mindsets, et cetera, that are needed for the key positions in their company? 100% clear. Like, a very clear avatar of what best looks like.
Oh, sure. I would say it's 0 because it's absolute with 100. Now, I mean, if you said 80%, I would say
we'll go 80%.
Let's say 25% of organizations understand 80%. Yeah, way low.
So 25% almost have it.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
Right?
I know.
And then
That's
they
crazy.
wonder, why are sales down? Why is fulfillment screwed up? Why is the warehouse a mess? Why is our manufacturing not working?
That's right.
Where is the hell? Why do we keep having these chronic problems?
Yeah.
Well, it's because you go out and hire people, and here's the problem. Where did they learn this skill set for hiring from?
Right.
The answer is nowhere except being interviewed by other interviewers.
Yeah, and possibly by you.
Yeah, and so they ask questions like, well, if we asked you to work 60 hours a week, would you?
Right.
And as if someone's going to say, nope.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you're setting them up.
Awful questions, and they don't know how to interview. So the two problems, right? They're not really clear about the seat and what you really want, your ideal candidate. Ideally, these are the things we want. Now, we can find someone that fits that 80%. I'm all about it. I'm saying you got a gem right there, right? But they're not clear even what they are, so they don't even know what they're looking for in the first darn place.
Right.
Secondly, their skill set to illuminate those attributes are awful. And so they're not even sure how to get there. So again, they just hire people that feel good to them, or sometimes they hire people that they look in the mirror and like, oh, I like this one. Oh, that's really nice. I have a lot of friends I like a lot that I wouldn't hire to put out my garbage. I mean, I love them to death, but they're like Muppets.
Right.
They're a lot of fun, but I wouldn't have them on my team, right? And so I think that's really critical, is that you have to get very, very clear. What is it that I'm really looking for in this position, right? And have that really solid. If you're not sure, ask some of the other people on your team. Ask someone that does it really well. Look at another employee in the same or similar role that you love. And what is it that you love? What is it that they do? What are the attributes that they have, right? And once you get clear about that, then you want to set up your interview with questions that will guide you to those, that will get you answers to those questions. Now, we have a whole tool for interviewing that I just recently built, but the kind of questions you want to ask, again, are going to be mostly experiential questions.
Right.
Tell me about a time in the past when. What would you do if? That's the kind of stuff you want to hear from people that will, again, illuminate those particular attributes that you say are needed. Yep. I would go one step further with your ideal candidate avatar to tell you, make 2 lists, or really kind of 3. What are the absolute yeses? They got to have this.
Right.
What are the absolute no's? If they have this, they're out. And
right.
then what are your desires?
Yeah. Yeah. I love
Right.
that.
So if you're hiring a driver, well, if you got a DUI, you're out. We can't insure you, right? Maybe you got to have a CDL. These are the absolute yeses and nos. You get those clear. Now, what
Yep.
are the other attributes I'd like to have
Yeah.
and set those out? And again, if you clear the absolute yeses and nos, 80% of the others, you probably got a pretty good hire in that seat, right?
Right.
And then you give them a role.
Yeah. I love that. The clear yeses and nos and the desires. I think that's actually really practical. I used to hire a ton of salespeople, and my advice to other sales leaders was basically, I mean, I had some practicals inside of the interview, very much like you, but that when you walked out of the room, it was either a clear yes. And if it wasn't a clear yes, it was an absolute no. And making a list of those things helps with that clarity. Cause that's really what we're talking about is like, yes, we've got some intuition, we got a little discernment based on the conversation, how I feel about this person. But really what I want to know is like, is it a yes? Is it a no? And that's really what Jason's given to you guys. So not only just the practicals there, but being able to like put them in a situation in an interview, but also even live. I love working interviews, and depending upon the business that you can do that. I've got a mastermind client of mine. He owns several companies, but one of which is a spray foam company. And his interview is, hey, so Tuesday, you're going to meet the general manager on the job site, 6 a.m. And we'll do our interview there at the homeowner's house while we're doing a project, 6 a.m. And if they show up and they have a conversation, like those are his have tos, right? Like, got to show up and be willing to have a conversation. And so
behind up at 5 and got here.
Yeah.
Which is necessary for the role.
100%. Why would I set it later and then, hey, so are you okay with getting up early? No, let's just meet early.
There you go.
Right?
There you go. Because the answer is, of course, right? And
Yeah.
So, Chaz, it's my guess that you, after 20 minutes of conversation, you'd be really good with that intuitive take on someone, whether they're the right kind of person you want to interact with or not, right? And why would you rely simply on that, though?
Right. Exactly.
Why? It's like choosing a wife by looks alone.
Exactly. Even if I am awesome at that and discernment is my absolute talent. Okay, great. But then if I don't want my fingerprint on every single part.
If you have the magic, the superpower, and you're the only person that can do it, there you go again. You're back to what I like to call a guy in a truck.
Yeah,
that's your business is a guy in a truck. Because you need, I coined a phrase last year called proximity osmosis.
Okay, tell us.
And most people operate their business training and culture. Let's see, you got to get it through proximity osmosis, which means I hire you, Chaz. You got to hang with me the next 6 months.
That's right.
You're going to pick up how we speak to people,
right?
How we work, what our ethics are, what our culture is, our processes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You can pick that up.
Yeah.
When you start as a guy in a truck, it's easy. It's
right.
You and the guy with the thing, and you're eating sandwiches.
Come along with
me. And it's going to be picked up.
That's right.
If you want to get bigger than that, you're going to have to figure out a process, one that's repetitive, digestible for others, and executable by others.
That's right.
So that they can develop those skill sets as well without you having to have your fingerprints on the transaction.
Yeah, it's good. What would you say the listener, we've given them so much what to do so far. It's actually been really, really, really insightful. What's been, instead of the opposite where they're coming to you looking for growth, there's been a decision that you've seen entrepreneurs make repeatedly over and over and over, and it has not served them. But yet it's like, it doesn't matter what industry, it doesn't matter race, creed, ethnicity, age. Entrepreneurs make this decision over and over and over again, and it's just not good for them. What is that? What pops into your mind?
I've had a couple of clients like that. I have one right now, and this client was with me for a year, went away for 6 months, and has come back.
Okay.
And what's interesting is the reason he went away was he was so aggravated with his team, right? He's like, Jay, I'm going to shrink things. I've just had enough of some of that. Long story short, he had one sort of division that was really not serving him and was a cash suck.
Sure. Yep.
And, he had $500,000 sitting out there in that world, was not getting it back. The freaking his cash flow, his attention, like a big problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Tough.
We wanted to shed a bunch of that stuff. So we had an annual. We set an agenda for him to do that. Let's just say his name is Mike. I said, Mike, go get it, bro. Best of luck to you, my man. I love you. I appreciate where you're at. If you need some support sometime, you're always welcome to call me, whether we're engaged or not. But best of luck. Well, it didn't took 5 months for him to come back around and go, okay, I need you back in here, right?
Yeah.
I need you back in. And it's because what happened for him was in this sort of pullback thing, right? He realized what I had been telling him for the whole year beforehand.
Yeah.
Mike, you're doing too much. Just look at your accountability chart. Your
Right.
name is on every damn heading of every one of them.
Right. For the listener paying attention, that doesn't have an accountability chart. That's step one.
That would help. That helps a ton, which is different than an org chart. In case you don't know, if you're not sure, go look it up, or there's some great books I can tell you to read about that.
That's right.
Attraction, et cetera, et cetera.
That's right.
But it just finally snapped for him. It wasn't snapping. He would agree to it. Every meeting we would have a discussion. Oh, I know. But that's like the alcoholic saying, I know I'm a drunk. I know. I get it. All right, give me a drink.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to quit tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's just where he was. He was just unwilling to really, and until he shrugged some things back, he shedded that other business completely, which we had talked about him doing. And that person's like more of a consultant for him now, right? Different roles that he doesn't have the financial burden.
Yeah.
And then he realized, what the problem is? I just do too much. And he's your classic visionary.
Yeah.
Where he has a legal pad he fills up about every 2 weeks with ideas and thoughts.
Brand new ideas.
And it snapped for him with our disengagement that holy hell, it's true. I spent an inordinate amount of time thinking about stuff and writing ideas down. And
right.
Between that time, I'm really doing everything. And if I'm not doing it, I'm blessing everything. I hear the details and bless it, hear the details and bless it, right? He's like, and he owns 3 different businesses, and he bought a boat, and he had the boat since spring, and it came back to me in May. He says, I still haven't taken my boat out.
Yeah.
It's like, well, by the way, Mike, boats aren't an investment. It took something like that. He's about a heart attack moment. It took something like that for him to finally sink in for him. And we face that a lot, I completely understand how difficult it is. It's like handing someone your baby, right? I have an analogy for a mother. The first time, you bring the baby to the daycare of a babysitter, you're like, oh my God, they're probably going to kill it, right? So and that's what entrepreneurs think. This is my baby.
Yeah.
The hell if I'm going to let somebody else feed the thing. I mean, I don't know how you're going to feed him, change a diaper and burp him, and you might drop him on his head. It's that cathartic, right? And emotional. So I understand the difficulty. But unless you want to stay stuck where you are, you have to start to learn. And there's only one way to learn, right? You want to learn how to run a marathon, you got to go run.
Yeah. Yeah. And keep getting better. I heard several things in there I want to point out for the listener. Number one is that this person was engaged in a professional relationship that someone, in this case, Jason, was able to speak into them. And it's potentially what helped them get to where they were. And we do this as entrepreneurs. We do the thing that helps us get to where we are. And then we stop doing it. Now, I'm not talking about changing and growing and developing the next level. I'm talking about, oh man, we did this and it worked. Let's do something different. It's like, well, wait a second.
Especially if you're the visionary, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That was Monday's idea.
Which is in essence what this guy's problem was, right? It's like, let me try something fresh and new, because whether it was Jason or the relationship or just wherever he was, he needed something fresh. When you realize, it's like, well, it's not always necessarily about what's fresh. It's about what works. And especially if you can have the perspective of, you've been pouring into this person, or you might be listening right now as an entrepreneur and thinking like you've been doing this to one of your people on your team. Like, I've been telling them this, and then boom, it clicks and they're like, oh, you've been right the whole time, Chaz. I'm like, yes, I know, but it's okay. Now we can realign and we can go forward. But I see this happening. You're right, that entrepreneurs are like this, and we just kind of keep hitting the wall until we have either someone tell us otherwise, or we have enough ego that lowers, right? That's probably more so of what it is.
One of my early lessons I learned from an early mentor who I always knew never personally liked me, but it actually helped me. He was a boss of mine in retail years ago. He couldn't stand me, but he stayed in my ass. I mean, just on me, no matter what. I was number 1 in the country for 11 months running one year, and he didn't even nominate me for district manager of the year.
Yeah, wow.
Because he said, nah, he got too many problems, right? So imagine that, right? Number 1 in the whole country. And so, but he taught me this great lesson. He checked on me in one of my stores that needed to do a certain thing, right? He called all my stores to check on me, like serious micromanaging kind of thing. And he called me, look, so-and-so, one store out of my 16 stores, one store, they didn't have this shit done. What's the problem? I said, Bob, I told them. And he said, well, that's nice, but I could have told them. We sent a memo to tell them.
That's
Told
right.
them is not your job. Your job is to have it executed.
That's right.
Right? And I always think about that all the times, right? Like I said, one of our core values is we maniacally obsess over results. So telling them is just not good enough, right? For whatever reason, my message wasn't getting into Mike, and he had to step away for just a short 4 months before he went, oh,
Yep.
that's what
Yeah.
you were saying.
Yeah, exactly.
And he called me back and re-engaged, and we rolled again. So.
Yeah, I love that perspective, especially that phraseology. I've used this same language, but I've said, that old joke. We said I love you at the wedding table or the wedding altar, and I'll let you know if it changes. It's like, well, okay, well, if that's your style,
yeah,
I don't know if it's going to work
might
because
be the
you
recipe,
can't.
but
Yeah, exactly. So I think that it requires more than that, to your point. I want to know of a great resource in business, something that you've invested in, that you've gotten an ROI on, book, event, program, something that you could share with us.
So, well, my library behind me.
Yeah.
Yes, I've read them all. I don't have any show books up there, well, except for my really cool encyclopedia collection that I
There
found
you
in the estate sale.
There you
Told
go.
you, I'm from the 60s, and I still like encyclopedias. I think they're really cool.
That's awesome.
And but other than that, I've read every book, every word up behind me. There are so many that are so fantastic. I would just say two things in that space. The first thing I would say, and I know you know this, if you're not working on personal development,
Yeah.
you're going to limit your possibilities. Right?
Yeah.
You're just going to limit your possibilities. Certain doorways won't open for you. You got to go to work on you.
Yeah.
And to keep expanding who you are as a leader, as a woman, as a man, as a husband, as a wife, as a parent, as a leader, you got to go to work on those things. That includes your emotional, your spiritual, your physical, all those things. I would just tell you that you want to be the most effective leader. Do some personal work. Find your own pathway, right? That might be through your church. It might be through some of the gurus out there. Personally, I've worked with Garrett J. White for years. I've also done Tony Robbins, and I've done Institute for Self-Action. I've done 39 years almost of that stuff, and just don't stop because it's always insightful.
Because you're grateful and not done.
Yeah, I love that. I hope I remember that phrase, because I really love that phrase, right? To reward yourself in that sense, but know that that's it. It's okay to say I've done awesome and you're not finished. So
yeah, it's good.
Beyond that, so many good books. The bones of our custom operating system, people that know traction, Gino Wickman's book, would recognize some of that stuff, as well as Vern Harnish's Scaling Up. So those are terrific books for operating systems.
Yeah.
We speak an awful lot about Jim Collins' Good to Great.
Yeah.
Because some of the concepts in there are true, so accurate. One of my favorite concepts he talks about in there, right, is that there was no one singular moment that made the great companies great.
That's right.
You can have a moment that
it's a catalyst.
Puts you in the ground.
Yeah.
But there's no singular moment generally that propels the great companies to greatness. It is this critical mass of things, right?
That's right.
Like when you work on culture, the day that you get really clear about your values, your purpose, your BHAG, a Jim Collins concept, big, hairy, audacious goal, it doesn't go, boom, holy hell, with an extra million. It doesn't work. It takes some time for these things to bake in and begin to be effective, right?
That's right.
So I think that's really important. But he also talks about this idea of return on luck. And this is in a Jim Collins podcast. That's terrific, right? And what he says is, through all research, Chaz, luck just happens randomly and at the same degree to everybody everywhere.
Yeah.
This idea that, well, the harder I work, the luckier I am. That's not true. But it lends itself to the idea of, what is your return on luck?
Yeah.
So lucky things are going to break your way occasionally. Are you prepared to take gross advantage of those lucky moments, right?
That's right.
Random call for a new client, or the huge order that you beat a huge competitor at and get this huge, whatever the case is. Are you prepared? Are you ready to take full advantage of luck? And secondarily, again, that one lucky event will not propel you to greatness, but one bad event can absolutely bury you completely. How prepared are you to survive the unlucky event, which is going to happen?
Yep. It's not a matter
Luck
of
is
if, just when.
inevitable, good or bad. Are you prepared to survive the worst luck and take gross advantage of the great luck? That's called return on luck, in the words of Jim Collins. And I highly recommend the book. He's got several, but Good to Great
Yeah.
is really a fantastic book to read and 100% research based. Collins fancies himself a researcher rather than an author.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it's a great resource, and it's been around for a long time. So it's got some great principles in there.
7 Habits has been around, for 50 years, and it's still a fantastic book, right? And I still all the time remind myself, seek to understand before being understood, and win-win. There's things in our culture, we win-win. He made that shit up. And people just think that's just a thing. No, there's a guy.
Yeah.
You want to think about that a long time ago, and a pathway of how to get there, right? And that whole communication. It's still terrific and applicable today.
Yep.
I think in his book, he should have had an addendum that sharpen the sauce should have been a whole nother book.
Yeah,
Right?
well, there's several of those principles that could probably have their own lane, own podcast, own program, but
For sure. Well, I mean, he's got some of those, but begin with the end in mind.
right.
Is First Things First, the book, right, that he wrote. That's like, it's that important to understand where you're going first and what you desire first before you just take off on that path. It's like going on vacation. Where we're going, I don't know. We're just going to start driving. I don't know where we're going. We're just going to drive. We should run across the joint eventually.
Yeah.
No. Can we be clear? We're going to where? To Boulder, Colorado? That makes it a lot simpler.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it does. Does. Jason, I got one last question here for you. I want to know if you had the opportunity to speak to the younger Jason, what would you tell him?
That's such a great question, right? I personally, I would have said, pull up your bootstraps and grow a set and start a business earlier. I started my business very late in life, just 15 years ago in my 40s. And again, just based, I guess, on a lot of us, the way we do it, right?
Yeah.
Frustrated in our current situation, feel capped, feel unappreciated, whatever those things are. Most entrepreneurs said,
Right.
I don't want to get too colorful in language, but most businesses started with the idea of, fuck it.
Yeah.
That's it.
I got nothing else to lose.
Might go broke, but damn it, I'm tired of working for people.
Yeah.
And you just go. And again, with this abundance of arrogance and ignorance, and you just jump off the cliff. It's like I say, you jump off the cliff, we'll figure out how to fly on the way down. Don't worry about it. And so I think I'd have told the 20-something-year-old me that was kind of full of piss and vinegar and cocky and thought he knew a lot more than he did, but man, had a lot more energy and time to work really.
That's right. That's right.
And never get tired. And I think I would have said, listen, find a spot that you're great at. Go find some other people that are great at, learn all you can, and coalesce that into something that's a sellable product.
Love that.
I think that's what I would have done. That's what so many of these authors and so-called gurus have really done. They didn't invent things, right?
No.
They read lots of other stuff and then just put those pieces together in a system or a particular message or a different way to hear it.
That's right.
Yeah, a different way to execute it. I think that's what I would have told myself.
That's
I'm
good.
not sure.
Yeah. Well, that's a pretty encouraging message. So I'll go for that. I'll go for that. I want to know how we can reach you. First off, if the audience are trying to grow their business and they're grateful not done, and they're possibly looking to have a strategic coach work with them, they can find you that regard. I'm sure also too, they can just connect with you. How can they find you?
So you can personally find me on Facebook, right? Jason Ambeau there, but also at exitmomentum.com. And in that space, there's a spot there that we can have a meeting. So our sequence is really very basic. We have a 100% success rate. We've never worked with anyone that we didn't absolutely transform what they were doing in their business. And part of the reason is we're choosy about who we work with.
Sure.
So just because you knock on our door doesn't mean we let you in.
That's right.
That sounds terrible, I guess.
As it should be. Yeah.
But we know what kind of people and businesses we're successful with. We're not willing to work with people that we don't have this connect. I've just recently told someone in the car business, no. Halfway through our meeting, I said, I don't think you and I are connecting right. And if we're not connecting right, there's no chance we're going to be successful helping you. Does that make sense? And he said, yeah. I said, great. Well,
have a nice day.
So much for sharing with me about your business. Wish you guys the very best of luck. This is another business of an owner that I don't have one of his other businesses. So it's hard for me to say no to.
Right.
I had to explain that. But I said,
Yeah.
I'm not your guy.
Yeah.
Just not with this particular manager. He's not interested, and I can't help not interested. So
Yeah.
our process is, if you go on there, you can contact us, and we'll have a brief phone conversation. And if that makes sense, we'll move into what we call a fit meeting. And that's a 90-minute meeting where we ask a lot of questions and kind of get a grip from the owner and the leadership team as one in this particular meeting, right? Where we want to know as much as we can about your business. What are the challenges? Where do you see yourself going at this point? Why are you even here? Like, something drove you here. Like, what are you? And you just didn't have a time to, you saw my picture, thought it'd be fun to talk to me.
Right.
There's something, right, that's driving you to seek. And
That's right.
so what is that thing? We get clear about that. And then if it does, we get clear about, well, this is what we do and how that matches up, right? And can solve those particular problems for you. And much like you said earlier, when that's concluded, we usually are expecting a hell yes or a hell no.
Yeah.
Most of the time, right? Like, we're in, we just got to have a discussion kind of thing. That's okay with me. But people really know right away. But that's the best way to reach us, exitmomentum.com. And again, you can click on there, you click my spot on there, and we can start with a simple phone conversation. What we don't do is we don't put a whole lot of pressure on people. We don't have to. We don't chase people. We're going to present when we do. You're more than welcome to talk to any of our clients, any that we've ever had, ever. Currently engaged or not, it's fine with us to speak with them.
Yeah.
And make that decision. And our proven process, what it looks like, is a 90-day implementation period where we put the basic bones of our custom operating system in, which gets customized for the individual client,
Sure.
their industry and their stuff. And then what we call the execution phase, which is the rest of that 12 months following, right? Where we just help drive those points. And then we go to really do more troubleshooting in that case, right? We go to attack things like compensation systems, sales programs, right people, right seats, whatever it is, right? Whatever it exposes itself. Because the one thing we're great at is we will expose what's going on in your business for sure. And we will tell you, again, whether it makes you uncomfortable or not.
Yeah.
Because that's what we think we're hired for. We're not cheerleaders, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're gonna give it to you straight, and sometimes tough. And because I'd rather spend more time fixing it than I would sugarcoating the facts.
That's right. That's right. I love it. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure you being here. I'm so glad that the listeners get an opportunity to connect with you. I think that's just our couple of interactions here and then before. I get fired up each time. So I'm excited that the same energy got to be shared with the listeners here today. Jason, I just so appreciate you, and blessings upon you and your businesses and your family. Thanks for being here, man. We appreciate you.
Thank you, brother. And thanks to your audience as well.
Thank you for listening to Gathering the Kings today. I hope that you were able to pull out a few nuggets to go apply into your business right away. More importantly, though, I hope that you're realizing that it takes more to be successful than just being by yourself, doing it all on your own, carrying the weight all by yourself. What I have realized, not only in my own journey from multiple businesses and multiple different industries, and now interviewing over 200 or 300 other very successful 7, 8, and 9-figure business owners, is that it's tough to do it alone. And so Gathering the Kings exists to bring together successful entrepreneurs. In fact, we are putting together 1,000 kings, specifically who are grateful but not done. We're intentionally assembling kings who fight tooth and nail for their business, family, and communities. And here's what we believe, that in the pursuit of excellence in those areas, that it ignites within us the responsibility to govern power and forge a lasting legacy. So if that relates and resonates with you, and you know that you need people around you, sharp, qualified, other very successful business owners, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. I want you to take a look at what we're doing and see if it makes sense for you to be part of our pursuit to 1,000 kings. Talk soon.